Over to you.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you for Harishji and Raghavanji for a wonderful session like always. Radhe Radhe from my side. A very warm good morning, good evening to all of you. Welcome to today's edition of Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. Hope you're doing great. Let's get started on our journey of Bhagavad Gita. I know we are at a hard stop today. So we'll try to pace it accordingly. So very warm welcome to all of you. Let's get started. I'm going to share my screen and we'll get underway. Are you able to see my screen?
Ji, Nitin bhai, we can.
Great. So Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening once again. Let's get started with our opening prayers. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanurmardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening once again. So let's get started. So we are on Shloka 4.21. So let's discuss that. We've been talking about topic of intention, the purity of intention, and then today we are going to talk about how do we purify our intention, because the intention or the motive is something that matters in every act, not the act so much, as we've been talking about through some analogies and examples that we are going to revisit again today. So let's get started. I'm going to recite it and you're welcome to follow along. Nirashiryat chittatma tyakta sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvannapnoti kilbisham. Okay, so let's take a few hands, Shyamji.
Bhai, I'll start. There's nobody. Yeah, Pitiji. Yeah, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
Sorry about that. Yes. Yes, Preeti ji, go ahead, please.
निराशीर्यत चित्तात्मा त्यक्त सर्व परिग्रहः शारीरं केवलं कर्म कुर्वन्नाप्नोति किल्बिषम्.
Wonderful, very nice, Preeti ji. Thank you.
Dinesh ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Dinesh ji.
निराशेर्यत चित्तात्मा त्यक्त सर्व परिग्रह शारीरं केवलं कर्म कुर्वन्नाप्नोति किल्बिषम्. राधे
राधे राधे.
उदय कुमार जी, राधे राधे.
राधे राधे. निराशीर्यत चित्तात्मा त्यक्त्वा सर्व परिग्रहः शारीरं केवलं कर्म कुर्वं नाप्नोति किल्बिषम्. राधे राधे.
युद्धे जी, राधे राधे.
राहुल भाई, राधे राधे.
राधे राधे राहुल.
निराशीर्यत चित्तात्मा त्यक्त सर्व परिग्रहः शारीरं केवलं कर्म कुर्वन्नाप्नोति किल्बिषम्.
Nice, thank you, Rahul. I see Aparna ji.
Radhe Radhe everyone. Nirashiryat chittatma tyakta sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvannapnoti kilbisham. Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Very nice. Thank you, Riyaji. All right, do we, Aparnaji rather. Okay, so let's get, I thought I saw Sandhya's hand as well, so not anymore. Okay, so let's get started. So in this shloka, Lord Krishna is saying that free from expectations and the sense of ownership, with the mind and intellect fully controlled, they incur no sin, even though performing actions by their body. So the whole game is about how do we not incur any binding karma. It is, if you simply think about it, the very reason for us to keep on repeating in this cycle of birth and death is because we have karmic backlog and we have not yet perfected the surrender. So because of our karmic backlog, we keep on repeating, and that karmic backlog is pretty huge. It's not a small one that we have. And out of that karmic backlog, a drop is given to us. And if you were to equate that karmic backlog, it's like tons and tons of cotton, okay, dry cotton in a pile of mountain. I don't know how big that mountain would be, maybe Sumeru Parvat. That much big of a mountain of our karmas is there. And a part of it is given to us in this particular life. The least we can do is not do the binding karma. However, the game is not about exhausting your karmas. The game is about perfecting your surrender. And the practice of Karam Yoga is actually taking us closer to surrender. And when we perfect our surrender, what happens? God, like with the one matchstick, is going to burn that entire pile of, the dry cotton that we have in one shot. It will be burnt away. So let's move on and understand how we can move towards from binding towards non-binding karma. So intention is what we are going to continue to discuss about. So let's start with our soul soup segment for the day. Give me a sec. Yeah. So today's soul soup says, what does it say? Let's look at it. Okay, the 2% mindset. So I think 98% of the people want to be outside that noose that you see. However, 2% actually do. And what is that 2% mindset? Going to confidence, embracing the unknown, having that energy, enthusiasm, abundance, the mindset of abundance, basically conquering the fear, choosing happiness, fulfillment, and all that stuff. And nobody wants to be insecure, live in fear, dull life, just getting by, regrets, procrastination, all that stuff, right? But unfortunately, 98% of the population falls for it, right? That Murphy's law, right? We know that 20/80 rule kind of a thing. It's even less than here. 98% of the people think they need to be on the outer quadrant, but 2% actually do. But good news is that we are reading Bhagavad Gita. It's a great enabler. So if you follow Bhagavad Gita, I'm not talking about self-help books here. Okay, self-help books can barely scratch the surface on some of these things. But if you read Bhagavad Gita and you understand the depth and you start aligning to these principles, you're automatically going to get into that 2% mindset. So congratulations. We all are actually getting into that category of 2% because we are reading Bhagavad Gita. And it's just a matter of giving it a serious thought, deeply contemplating upon it, and obviously putting it to practice. But this knowledge itself is so powerful. If you keep on listening to it repeatedly, some transformation is bound to happen. It is not possible that no transformation happens at all. That is the power of this knowledge. So with that said, let's move on. So by the way, all these qualities, this has come from business tips. So if you go to corporates, they will also tell you about these things. For you to be successful in your profession and in general in your life, you need to align to these qualities. So even if you have ambitions of becoming executive in your company or carrying a the C tag behind your profession, you need to have some of these qualities, because those executives, they exhibit some of these qualities because of which they are able to differentiate themselves from the rest of the people, and they come across as strong leaders who can lead people, who can influence people, and who can make a positive influence to the enterprise that they serve. Now let's move on and get started. So let's start with a short video. Just let me know if you're able to hear the volume or not. If not, we had some challenge last time around. Then I'll have to do something else. Okay.
We people,
Is it coming? Okay, great.
G, right,
Awesome.
perfect.
when we engage in actions, we experience disturbance from within. There is hankering and aversion. We are affected by anxiety, fear, brooding, lamentation. The saints are also engaging in work. And even though apparently working from the outside, their internal state is different. So that inner state of working in divine consciousness is being explained. They are working without self-expectation. I need this is missing. And hence, there is no disappointment as well. Plus, he says, Nirashiryat Chittatma, no expectations, just focusing on their duty. And the second point, he says, Tyakta Sarva Parigraha. They don't have the sense of proprietorship. One devotee said to me in Delhi, Swamiji, come over to Nehru Place. I have got my flat there. So I went over and I said, which is your flat? Is it the floor? If it is, the person below will say that this is my roof. Or is it the roof? The person above will say it's my floor. And the side walls will be claimed likewise by your neighbors. If you say it is this space, the mosquitoes and the flies will say it is our space. This idea that the world objects are mine is actually our misconception. On the hills, on the valleys, there's no board of Tatas and Birlas written. This whole world belongs to God. We all know we came empty-handed and we shall go empty-handed. But we seem to keep forgetting. And in a little circle of ours, we stake our claim. This is mine and this is mine. Ashanam me, vasanam me, dhara me, bandhuvargo me, iti me kurvanam kalavriko anti purushajam. Somebody says, clothes are mine, the house is mine, this family is mine. So mine in Sanskrit is me. This Sanskrit verse says, the goat keeps on doing meh, meh, and the wolf comes and eats it. Likewise, when we go on saying me, this is mine, the consequence is that the wolf of time comes and eats us up and keeps us rotating in the cycle of life and death. So this concept that world is mine is keeping us in bondage. The saints are also living in this world, but they don't feel a sense of proprietorship. It's not that you have to renounce the world. They are right in this world. Guru Nanak was a saint. In his youth, his parents, they saw that he is too devotional. So they got him married. And he was still not forsaking the bhajans. So his father would force him to go and sit on the grocer's shop that he owned. Now there, when a customer would come and ask for something, Guru Nanak would say, okay, 1, 2, 3, counting. How many did you want? 15. 10, 11, 12, 13. So moment he would come to 13, yours, then he would go on 13, 13, 13. Everything is yours, my lord. So the parents realized that he can never be a shopkeeper. But that is an extreme attitude. Probably it becomes dysfunctional in the world. Rabindranath Tagore expressed his own sentiment of freedom from proprietorship. He was a poet par excellence. And the fact that he won the Nobel Prize for his anthology of poems called the Gitanjali was just a little accolade for the immense ability he had. And yet, out of his humbleness, he said, "My Lord, everything that is good in my poetry is yours. It has come from you. Everything that is bad is mine. It is because of my lack of surrender and my lack of complete connection with you that these blemishes are still there." So that is the freedom from the sense of proprietorship. Otherwise, if we have this mind, the tension will never end, because it comes with the need to protect, the fear that I will lose it. There was once an eagle that found a roti, and it picked up the roti. Now the amount of anticipatory joy it was experiencing from the roti was immense. It's like what you would experience when you have that very special pizza, etc. So for the eagle, that roti was so promising, he took it up and went up into the sky. And the crows started attacking it. So crows from here and from there and everywhere. And the eagle was miserable, and then it said, "Okay, let go." The moment it released that roti, it found peace. So likewise, if we can give up the sense of proprietorship from inside, then what will happen? Earlier on, he said, work without expectation, as a sense of duty. Without sense of proprietorship, then the work that you do will not bind you. Because God doesn't see the externals. God sees the internals. The world looks on the outside. This person is killing so and so. God sees what is the intention. He's an army man. He's just following the instructions of the general. He has got no rag, dvesh, no internal animosity or love or hate or anything. God says, all right, no consequences. Likewise, the saints too. When they work in such divine consciousness to maintain their body and to serve God, those karmas then do not bind them.
All right. So we've been talking about the karmas that do not bind. So the question is that how do we get to that mindset or that intention that will enable us to do karmas which are non-binding? Right. So let's continue this discussion. We spoke about the intention aspect of it yesterday. We spoke about 4 kinds of people. Tamasic people who perform acts. They don't shy away from cheating, swindling to rob others to fulfill their needs. Then we have Rajasic people. They do things legally. And but the problem that they get stuck in is that they do things for their own pleasure. And they are driven by materialistic, worldly desires. Okay, not anything bigger than that. For them, attaining fame, status, wealth, position, and their self-enjoyment is the only goal of life. Although they do things lawfully, they don't harm anybody. So from their standpoint, they may look down upon tamasic people as cheaters and violators of law, but in grand scheme of things, they're also transgressing the divine law. Okay, because when you come in this world, there are certain more expectations that God has, not just catering to your own self needs alone. Okay, right? There's a beautiful saying in English which says that if I won't think about myself, then who else will? But then if that is all I do, then who am I? So it's a little more than, just thinking about yourself is what God says, because you have come into this world. First of all, we need to understand, like it is, I like that there was this beautiful quote I came across a few days back. I think it is from Muhammad Ali. He said that service to others is the rent you pay for the home you get here on earth. It's a very profound statement. So service is not something that you are doing some great job. It's like one of the things is, of course, you are aligning to the bigger purpose of life. Second is, it is the rent you pay for all the freebies you enjoy in this world. What are those freebies? God gives you the free oxygen. You go to a hospital and you will understand when you have dire need of oxygen, right? A lot of people during COVID times, they realized when they were slapped a bill of thousands of rupees and dollars, that they have been enjoying this free air, free water, and everything in this earth free of, by God. But then in that grand scheme of things, we forget that it's obligatory on us to give back or to serve. If we simply cater for our own needs, small bubble of me, my family, and that's about it. I just want to do my puja 2 times a day and just take care of my selfish needs and my family, and we lead a life. Actually, that is also something which is binding, and we are violating the divine law around it. So it's a very deep and a profound principle to understand. Then you have sattvic people. They are driven by higher virtues like compassion, generosity, who help people reach out. They do philanthropy, seek knowledge, make a difference to the mankind because of their conquests and their findings and stuff like that. And they belong to this category. Even though it is well directed, it is still not perfect. And it's only people who are established in loving relationship with God, who actually you strive to do that, then they are actually working towards purifying their intention. Now, this is a perfect and ideal state. Then we all need to strive towards that, because Bhagavad Gita's message is essentially telling us how do you purify your intention or the motive behind your workings, so that you are getting closer to the goal of life and not getting further entrenched in this material world, which is something which we have been doing anyways, right? Now let's move on. We spoke about these concepts yesterday and we looked at it. We said, then how do I know my intention was pure or not? We had a bit of a discussion around it. We said the feeling that follows that would give us some kind of an indicator. It's a notification from the soul. If you experience some kind of an inner joy, some calm, some peace after doing an act, you did all right. Your intention was pure behind that act. But if you don't experience that, there's a bit of a restlessness, something that you feel after performing that act, then you know that some kind of contaminated thought process or a vested interest took over, and you did not do it with sincerity at heart and with the complete purity of intention that you could have afforded. Now, having said that, are there any certain set of activities or some you can channelize or utilize in your day-to-day life to get closer to this principle of purifying your intention? So let's talk about that a little bit today and have a bit of a discussion as well. How do we purify our intention? Now let's talk about it. So now there are certain aspects of our mind that we struggle with. We all know we are tormented by our own mind. There's a whole gamut of emotions. It's a battle between our lower self and our higher self, and the lower self is what we're going to talk about here. Those emotions, they pull us down. So let's look at that. Now, dovetailing is a concept that is being used. You take those emotions and you dovetail it. What is dovetailing actually? So if you look at it, dovetailing is like having that perfect fit. You see here, when you have this kind of a piece, wooden piece, Rotate it clockwise, it will just perfectly fit in. Now, if we really think about it, now, how do you dovetail some of your emotions? Now you have desire. Is there anybody who is without desire? Nobody's there without desire, right? We all succumb to different kind of desires, right? The Buddhism causes desire as the root cause or the culprit for all of our miseries, right? The Four Noble Truths that Buddha had said, that there is misery in this world. The cause of misery is the desire. You finish desire and you can finish the misery. Those are the Four Commandments or the Noble Truths by Buddha. However, in the path of devotion, bhakti, you say you simply dovetail it. Now, the desire, let the desire become, what is the desire? What are the purifying desires where you can purify the intention behind your desire? Let's look at some examples. I'm eager to cleanse my heart. Is it a good desire or a bad desire? It's a good desire to have. Right? Now, this is one of the ways you can dovetail your desire. I want to cleanse my heart. I want to look at every opportunity that life presents to me, or situations or circumstances or people around me present to me, and utilize it to cleanse my heart. It's a great desire. It's a noble desire. It's a very good desire, right? Or I wish to please God with my every action. It's a great desire. It's a very noble desire if we have it. If we simply employ that desire, there cannot be anything more auspicious than that. Or I yearn to see the divine. Now, this is a great desire. I want to see Krishna. I want to see my Ishtadev. Want to see Lord Ram. I want to see Devi Ma. I want to see Lord Shiv. Whoever is your Ishtadev is, with whom you have built that connect. It's a good desire to have. Then let's look at another thing that troubles us, greed. Greed troubles us. So let's look at how we can purify our greed also. You can say that I want to serve my Lord even more. I've not been able to do enough. Given the graces that he has bestowed upon me, I've not even done a 0.00001% payback. I want to serve him more and more and more. How many lifetimes he has accompanied me, even when I became a donkey, and he has been taking care of me, and he keeps on bestowing his causeless grace to me. I want to serve him in some capacity and form to the best of my abilities. Now, greed, you have a greed for that, right? That seva vasana, so to say, if you keep on increasing, it's a great greed to have. What else? I yearn to develop even more detachment. Now, you want to develop detachment from the world. Attachment is what keeps us bounded to, or it's an unholy thing. That attachment that we build around, it's an unholy thing. And then when we struggle with that, you develop a greed to develop more detachment around it. Or I hanker to enhance my knowledge to understand my Lord better. It's a good greed to have. If you say, I want to, enhance my knowledge, understand more about my Lord, my Ishtadev, so that, I can understand him better, appreciate it better, contemplate better, and develop my love for him. It's a great greed to have. So in a sense, if you look at it, these are the ailments of the mind that we spoke about, right? Desire and greed, amongst others as well. These are the ailments. However, when you align with the higher purpose, you have transformed these two assets. Now, these same things which were a liability for you, which are liability for us in our minds, because we have to suffer because of these emotions that pull us down, that bind us to the world, that brings about suffering, misery, anxiety, all the interpersonal problems, right? But when you start aligning it with a higher purpose, because you are purifying it now, then you have transformed these two assets just by doing a simple dovetailing. Let's move on. So, anger. Now, anger becomes, I am fed up with my stupid mind, which refuses to absorb itself in the Supreme. I must work on it even harder. It's a good way to dovetail that anger on yourself, rather than directing that anger to the people around you, your spouse, kids, people, friend, whoever it is. How about directing it to yourself, say, to your own mind, scold it, chastise it, say, I need to really tame you and make you my friend, and you have not been cooperating. It's about time you listen to me, and I need to work hard. That is a good utilization of this emotion as well. Or, why am I not able to overcome my worldly attachments? I must strive more vigorously in my effort for self-improvement. right? Why am I not able to improve the things that I've always been struggling with? That's a good way of dovetailing anger as well. What else is there? Then we talk about pride. Pride. My beloved Lord is so wonderful, I'm proud of him. In fact, Hanumanji had a pride. I think I've forgotten that verse from Ramayana which says, As Abhiman Jai Kahi More Main Sevak Raghupati Pati More, something like that was there. So he's saying he had a pride that he is the servant of Lord Sri Ram. Now that pride is not misplaced. That is a good pride to have. You serve Lord. It's a good pride. Now, how to keep it in check, it's a different thing. But the point is, even you can dovetail your pride. That you can have a pride that, what, God has given me the ability to have, serve him. I can put my skills to the best use for his service, and that could be a good pride to have. And then I'm most fortunate to have the opportunity to express my devotion to him and opportunity to serve him. So these are some of the ways you can actually put your ailments of the mind into perspective and actually dovetail it towards something that can actually be beneficial to you. And these are some of the techniques we can employ whenever one of these emotions arises and can contaminate our intention behind the act that we are doing. Typically, why do we end up doing binding karma? One of these emotions will take over. Attachment will come, proprietorship will come, pride will come, greed will come, anger will come. All these things can actually be the cause of impure intentions that we end up basically the motive that we are not able to purify behind the act that we end up doing. So these are some of the things that we can employ. Any questions on this so far? These are the emotions which are troublesome for us. And if we can actually start dovetailing it, rest of it becomes a piece of cake automatically, right? Typically, one of these emotions is the reason for us to do binding karma, or is there anything else? Let's have a quick discussion on that, or any other question that might come up in your mind on this. Yes, Sandhya?
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
This desire that I've yearned to see the divine, is there a tinge of selfishness in this?
Yeah, we are not asking God to serve us, right? But seeing that is a good desire actually. Okay, yes, when you talk about the epitome of selflessness, then you leave that desire also. It's like, okay, whenever he chooses to. But then if you have to dovetail it to begin with, it's a good desire to have. Right? If we yearn for something, let's yearn for something which is beneficial and uplifting for us. But as you progress, you even leave it to God. If he chooses so, whenever he chooses so, kind of a deal. But to begin with, it's a great desire to have. You yearn for that vyakulta to see him, and it's a good vyakulta actually. Because when you don't see him, it will help you deepen your virah bhav as well. I'm not able to see him. How long it has been since I've seen him, kind of a deal. So it's a good thing. It's a purifying, uplifting thing. Champaji, good to see you. You're here after so long.
Yep.
By the way,
Radhe
do we
Radhe.
have Urvi on?
Radhe,
Radhe Radhe.
I'm
Yeah.
always there, Nitinji, in your class.
I'm seeing you after a long time.
Yeah. I have a question to you here. Like, from the time this DKO classes started, early morning, which is actually very important in India, we are spending that time with the class. That is good, I know that. But at the same time, we get irritated at people who are just sleeping or whiling away, and you feel you're better than them. Why don't they also have early bath and sit and do something? That is also a kind of a pride, right?
True, very true. I'll tell you a
How
story.
to overcome that? How to overcome that kind of a thing, because even we would have done it some 30 years back, the same thing.
True, very true, very true. Swamiji tells a story actually. There, father, he told his sons to get up, build this habit of getting up early in the morning. And one of the sons would get up in the morning, other would keep sleeping. So the son would he's one day he started getting, when he got up early, he started scolding that you lazy guy, you sloth, get up, and then started complaining to father, he's sleeping and look at him and all that stuff. So his father said it was better if you kept sleeping as well, this was not the purpose. So yeah, it can happen. This is how our mind is, right? But then I think there was another story where there was a guy who was scolding Buddha, and he kept on scolding Buddha. And when he got tired, Buddha said, give him some food and water, okay, so that he gets energy and to start again. So this guy got tired, and he asked Buddha, are you made up of stone or wood? Because I've been abusing you relentlessly and you are not moving, you're not even batting an eyelid around it. So Buddha said, 50 lifetimes back, even I was like you. So the point here is everybody is on their own spiritual trajectory, and they're perfectly situated where they need to be. And by our words, nobody changes. So I think we need to bring in our mind, maybe we were like that sometime back, or quite possibly they can also leapfrog us in their journey, spiritual journey, when it clicks to them. So yeah, with that, I think we need to bring that knowledge to our head and let them be, we can tell them, but if it is causing a heartburn inside you because they're not doing it, then it is not right. But you can put on an act to tell them it is good for them, but beyond a point doesn't help actually. The change has to come from within. So I mean, that is something we could try, but if it actually helps you, your bhav is getting contaminated because of that early morning, then I think maybe we need to do something a little different about it. That's not good for us.
However much we listen to all this philosophy and trying to practice that that inner thing, like, I'm better than the others, will not go so easily. Thank you.
Yes, to prevent itself, we fail. That's where I think we need to get better. We all need to get better at times, right? Well, that's
Thank you
he
very
was where I told you about that Panditji he would repeat this knowledge every day, that Nainam Chintanti Shastrani, we are all soul and all that stuff. So he goes to a person's house, his son had, relative had died, and he was telling them, don't cry, soul has immortal, it just migrates from one body to another, and all that gyan he was giving them. And then after a week, his cat died and he started crying. So these guys came to his house, say, Panditji, only last week you were telling us, soul is immortal and all, you were giving us gyan and now you are crying. He said that relative was yours, that cat was mine. Okay, so the problem happens when it comes to us, if we struggle to implement the knowledge, we need to get better at that. So
Thank you very much, Radhe.
no worries. So dovetailing, I wanted to add one more thing here. Dovetailing, we dovetail all the emotions. In fact, the devotee sentiment, when we keep getting at the peak of this, right, devotion, I came across this beautiful lecture where, one of the devotee, he expressed his sentiment to God. He realized God. So God basically, when he was going to shed, and he makes this request to God that, when I shed my body, I have a request for you. God said, how does it matter when you shed your body? It's all mud. Right? Why would it matter to you what I need to do? What should be done to your body? He said, no, I realized you in this body. So what I want is that the water element of it should mix with that water where you take bath every day. The tej element, the fire element, should go to that mirror where you look at your face every day. The Akash element should go to the courtyard where you do your, play, or where you do your pastimes. The mud element should go on the pathway where you walk every day. So that is how, elevated sentiments of a devotee are. They want to serve God even then. So everything can be dovetailed, and he's dovetailing even the elements that he has no control over, right? So those are the sentiments we need to harbor so that we can purify each and every aspect of our fiber and being and pore of our existence. That is the ultimate aim. But we have to take that step somewhere, start that somewhere. Yes, let's see a few more hands. Do we have Urvi, by the way? She wanted to talk about something. I don't know if she's Urvi. If you're there, you can raise your hand.
She's not there. Abhi aayi nahi wo.
But let's continue. I budgeted some time for her, but I can carry on. We'll figure out what to do.
एक सवाल है शिवम्मा जी का. Most of the time we spend in office work. This might not be related to seva. How to dovetail this to God? Office work.
office work, how to dovetail it to God. See, one of the things that I asked Swamiji was, see, one thing that happens is when spirituality starts becoming your priority, then you become a little, I won't say lazy is not the right one, but maybe a little content in your office life. And then it's like whatever kind of an attitude, right? So then people start worrying that is it good for their professional life or not, now that on the path of the spirituality. So I'd ask this question to Swamiji that, Swamiji, should I be equally ambitious on the professional front? How do I balance that need out that I need to be at least meeting the needs, of my internal stakeholders around there? And then should I not be ambitious there at all? He said that one of the ways to dovetail it is by thinking that let me earn more so that I can give more. Okay, that is one way of dovetailing it. Let me earn more so that I can give more. But he said it's a very devious path, right? You will have to do a lot of stuff to get to the next promotion, all that stuff. And it's basically a never-ending game. Other way of looking at it is you do your basic minimum that is needed at the job front, right? And then spend your time on seva and devotion and other things. But I think regarding your office life, and you have to deal with different people, with office politics and all, I think one of the checks that we can probably create for ourselves is, at least that's what I try to align to as best as possible, is do you have to compromise on your value system? Right? Do you really have to play the game the way they do, or you can keep raising your standard so that people are forced to up their game from time to time as well? That is a call you can take. Again, it's very contextual depending upon the environment that you are in. If you're in a toxic environment, maybe it's an opportunity for you to work more on yourself in some aspects, maybe learn a new skill, look for a change, or see how best you can understand, learn to navigate through some of those situations. Because if you can do it through those tricky situations, rest of the things become piece of cake. Very contextual, but I don't see a need where you have to play the game in a different manner, which may force you to compromise on your value systems. Not really needed. And eventually people figure out, if you carry integrity, if you're good at your work, you're being honest to people, you're upfront, typically people observe and they figure you out, right? And then I think things do align. But again, depends on the situation that you are in, right? But becoming very ambitious, you can dovetail it by saying, okay, if I reach a higher position, I'll use my additional earnings towards serving God more, as opposed to thinking that, okay, now I'm going to enjoy and upgrade my life, as I keep growing. So that could be one of the ways. But we can talk more, especially if there's a particular situation you're talking about, because corporate environment throws a lot of different scenarios, which can be tricky for sure. Yeah. Yes. More hands.
Samji, Radhe.
Radhe. I have recommended regarding I learned to see the divine. Devadev Mahadev was a very popular episode in 2011-12, and at one point, one of the devotees of Lord Shiva, he was meditating, and at one point he was so eager that he tried to hit his eye with the arrow with his hand. But then Lord Shiva appeared and said, "You are setting up the wrong temple. I am not happy with you, with your meditation and all those things. You are setting up the wrong temple. In the future, if I come to give you the Vardhan, in the future, everybody will start following the same thing, bad practice. So hitting or hurting yourself and then getting the Vardhan from me. So yearning to see the divine is a good thing. But that episode was kind of contradicting it.
No, it's not, because yearning does not mean we will put gun on God's head and says, I'll do this and then you will come, right? That may be an erroneous understanding around that concept. Right? It's like putting a gun on your head and saying, God, I'm going to do that if you don't come. So that's not the idea. That is why it has to be supplemented with the right kind of knowledge as well, right? And
by the way, the same thing did Raman too, 9 heads. And Lord Shiva was pleased with that. On the other hand,
Bhole Shankar is easy to please. So he gives a lot of boons, and then Vishnu has to come and do the cleanup job, right? We know there are so many stories around it. That is why it says Bhole Shankar is very easy to please, and he gives a lot of boons around it. and that is that happens, but those are more kind of leelas than anything else. But yearning is a good sentiment to have. But
No,
when
I
you
agree. I
yearning,
agree.
you don't blackmail God around it or
Yeah,
do
you're right. I agree, but I will just bring that point again. Nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that, Samji. Okay, yes, who's next?
Yeah. Prabhat bhai, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. So, my question is related to pride. Like, pride isn't the outcome of comparison. Like, if we have pride on our guru and God, so is that we are comparing it with him with another gurus or another form of God? Because of that, that pride is coming. Like, if we are seeing our guru's teaching and God in different forms of in form of Shiva or other gods, so then there will not be any comparison. And if there is no comparison, then there must not be any pride.
True, I
Because
get that. But that pride, we have to reach that pedestal as well, right? I mean, we should be at the stature of Hanumanji to have that pride. But now, for now, I mean, you can also put pride in perspective as well, right? If you have a pride that, I have got basically the path of devotion and I've got such a great guru, right? It's my great fortune. That doesn't mean you look at others and belittle them in your head, right? That pride also, you can put it in perspective. It's like, okay, I'm so fortunate, that kind of a thing. It's more a little subtle in around that part, but that doesn't mean you look down upon other people and other paths and stuff like that. You just have a healthy respect for them, but at the same time, you can, when that pride is swelling in you for your personal thing, you think about it, how fortunate I am to get that seva. So that way you can dovetail it, as opposed to thinking of yourself as great or thinking of others as any lesser than you. Yes, Archana ji, you've put on, let's give preference to people who have their videos on.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you for taking my question. My question is, in devotion, they say the state of devotion should be equanimity, like not happy when the situations are good and not sad when the situations are bad. But when we feel happy in bhakti, is that pride? Would that be considered pride? Because many times you're overwhelmed and you feel very good about everything around you, and you feel like things are getting into place, or it's solving, so you feel happy about it. Is that okay, or is that also called pride?
The bliss of God is something we cannot, what do you call that, negate, right? That is a spiritual bliss, which is fine. You would know that, and God will tell you basically how to tolerate that as well. So that bliss is good. Now you're subscribing to actual happiness. What Bhagavad Gita is telling us about material stuff that we take happiness in, right? Like people, for material gains and stuff like that, they swing from side to side. They will become overexcited, super happy, and then very sad and depressed around the material situations that they're talking about. But when you progress in bhakti, of course, you are going to get bliss, right? But then that bliss will not intoxicate you or basically derail you like the material enjoyment would. Basically, material enjoyment is actually what do you call that, an agitation of mind that gives you a feeling of bliss, but it is not lasting. But this is a high quality bliss that you are getting, which you will be able to calmly take on in your stride and move forward. So basically, it is said, when you progress on this path, the bliss that you are, peace that you are feeling from within, it's not like it's something which is you feel that, okay, you can live with it. You crave for more, and then there's no limit to what God can provide you at that point. So devotee in bhakti, there is never Purnima, and that it keeps on increasing and increasing, and you keep on increasing your bhav to offer it back to God and serve Him more. So that competition continues forever. So it's a good bliss or happiness that you are subscribing to. In fact, when you get the pure bliss, not the material bliss, pure bliss, then God is relishing that also, being seated within you. And He knows that. Swarup Shakti-anand, they call it. So that is why God loves His devotees. Because the devotees, via His devotees, He is also relishing that bliss. So it's a good bliss. Don't
Thank
be sad about it. Because if you don't feel bliss on the path of bhakti, why would you do bhakti?
Exactly. Yeah.
Now you are truly subscribing to spiritual bliss. That's the bliss of God. When people come to retreat, they say typically the third day is the best. Why? Because the first 2 days they have blocked out the world, they are immersing in those things, and the third day your soul will tell you that, I got something. Finally, I got something that I was always craving for. It's a good thing. Don't negate that. Of course, write it, understand it calmly, and then keep progressing, keep deepening it, and God will keep on giving you higher and higher realizations, the higher level of bliss, and also the ability to tolerate it and keep it in perspective. Right. When
Thank you.
materially we become happy, what do? We dance around, we throw parties, cocktail parties, and all that. Here you will do something else. You'll do more seva.
Yeah.
Right? That thing will tell you that now you're subscribing to the right kind of high quality bliss. What your soul is craving, not something which your senses were craving for. It is a good bliss. Don't be scared like that. Yeah.
Thank you.
In fact, Bhakti Marg, that is the beauty of Bhakti. It's not a needless mark. It is a very, very dynamic path where you have newer, fresher, deeper realizations along with bliss in this path. That's why if you look at some of the things, again, I'm going to talk about Dallas and stuff. People, they are engaged throughout the year, and you can see their faces, how excited and happy they are, because in Bhakti Marg is not needless. You go to some other paths, they are so needless, they'll look back at your face, blank face, what are you doing? Whichever path, the Gyan Yogis, Ashtang Yogis, you will not see that bliss on their face at all. They're not getting it, but it's not a dynamic mark. So that is the beauty of the Bhakti Marg at all. You utilize your senses, mind, everything for the seva of world, and then what you get is a divine bliss. So I hope I answered your question, Archana ji.
Thank you so much, Nimai. I thought you said other parts of the world, not Dallas. Mistaken. Sparks. Thank you so much for clarifying it. Yes.
Let's take
There are
Sandhya.
few questions. One is simple but tricky one. How to know we have pride? और एक और सवाल है जो I'm sure we all want to know. Even I am interested to know how do Nitin ji manages his time with Vision Personal and this seva. How do you schedule it, please? It's very, we all want to know, Nitin भाई आपके पास इतनी एनर्जी, समय, प्लानिंग, इट्स रियली कमेंडेबल. आई नो भगवान जी, कृष्णा जी आपके ऊपर हाथ है, स्वामी जी का हाथ है, बट उसके अलावा what else you do?
Yeah, I'll take the first question. Second one is a much deeper, nuanced discussion. The first one is, how do we know we have pride? The very first sign of pride is when you see faults in others. Okay, that means your pride is talking. So if you do never see faults in others, that means you don't have pride. Anybody who sees faults in others has pride. Same simple yardstick. So time thing is something I'm telling you, jump into seva and see how time starts getting created for you. I don't know how it works, to be honest, if you ask me, but it keeps on getting created. My worry is when my office starts in January, how it will work, but I have a strong feeling it will somehow fall in place. It will work out. How, I don't know, but it will. So just jump into it. It's like jumping into the swimming pool, and then you learn everything gets worked out. So for that, you have to take a leap of faith and do seva with a firm faith in your guru and God, and see how the magic starts unfolding. I myself sometimes get surprised. I mean, how am I able to make time, and how do factors converge around me to make it happen? But you can only experience it when you yourself jump into it. Otherwise, it's all theory, right? And it somehow works out. Okay, but we'll continue on. This is an interesting topic. Yes, let's hear from Preeti Talati ji, and then we'll come to you, Sandhya, Lakshmi ji, and then.
Yeah, so how do you tolerate the politics in spiritual places? That you thinking, there is no politics, but there is politics everywhere. So even in the place.
Being human is being political. Okay, let me put it that way.
Yeah.
Wherever there are humans, there's bound to be certain kind of philosophies, politics, and conflicts. It's the very nature of that, right? So the game of Big Boss is, conceived around this idea. You put in few humans together and see the clash of gunas happening within no time, and especially when you put it in a controlled environment. And seva world is no different. In fact, it is a crash course on life. Now, one thing I can, I don't know what's the way. I mean, every person has to have their own game plan around it. But just figure out how to navigate that politics, and how to not lose the big picture as to why we are doing what we are doing, without overemphasizing or putting more focus on the people that you are dealing with. End of the day, it's a guru seva, it's a seva for God. And I will not let anybody come in that way, because of their bad behavior or whatever manipulation they might be trying to do. So in my capacity, whatever I can do to contribute towards that big picture, I will continue to do that. It's very easy for our mind to say, no, you know what, I'm going to take a U-turn because these people are not supportive. But if you can say, no, I keep the big picture in mind and keep progressing forward and figure out ways, God will give you help and direction around it. But we need to get smarter. We have to use our buddhi in the world, whatever works, okay? We have to learn to navigate that somehow for the
Okay, I might want to talk to you later about this, so
Sure.
let me know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk about offline specific scenario that you're talking about, Preeti ji.
Yeah. Let me know what's a good time. You can text me.
Sure, Preeti ji, I'll give you a call. I know we need to talk for a few other things as
Thank
well.
you.
Yes,
Okay.
Yes, Sandhya, go ahead. We have 2 more, 4 more, 3 more minutes, so 1.5 minute each. And Kumarji is there as well. So Sandhya, Lakshmiji, and Kumarji, 1 minute each.
Quickly, one thing I learned today only, that Swamiji said that the biggest kusang is fault finding that you mentioned, right? And it's like two-way channel. Fault finding, if we are doing, it reflects that we have pride, and it also boosts our pride. So it is a two-way thing. So clearly, even in politics, wherever, if we stay away from this, we can, I think, help elevating ourselves. And last thing was this book, Golden Rules for Living. It's not showing up, but yeah, here there is this whole section on professional fulfillment, and I think that also talks about the politics aspect and how you should be pursuing excellence in whatever you do. So I would really strongly recommend everybody to read this book written by Swamiji. It'll answer a lot of questions.
True. End of the day, anything that disturbs us, if you go to the root cause of it, it's our attachment or our pride that is being confronted. So let's try to go to the root of it. Why we are getting heckled by somebody? Is it our pride? Is it our attachment? What is it? What is the root cause for that? But let's talk more about that. Lakshmiji has turned her camera on. Lakshmiji, real quick, we have about 2 minutes to wrap up the session.
Yeah, Radhe. Yeah, my problem, what I'm facing is if some seva is being targeted, I mean, I have given a target to regarding the seva. I focus on that, but somehow there will be delay in doing that work. So is it wrong in me determination to do that work, or I'm not able to find out how to make it up?
You do your best, right? We got to be realistic around it. So we do our best. You will intuitively know, have you put in your best in it, right? That doesn't mean you will always get favorable result, but as long as you are trying your best, you put in your best and you're doing the needful, God notes that, right? And then over time, like any other thing, we get better at it. So let's not have realistic expectations from ourselves without, having very high expectations to begin with. And with practice, we get better at everything. So then in that sense, we can set realistic expectations for ourselves, because in Seva world, we are running a marathon, not a sprint. So we can't burn ourselves out, and at the same time, we cannot have unrealistic expectations, which might be demoralizing for us. So as long as you are trying your best, take the baby steps, and one day you would perfect that as well, or get better at what you are doing. Kumarji, real quick, 1 minute, and then we'll wrap it up for the next session.
Jai Shri Ram, everyone. Some points which I had is we really do not need to involve ourselves in politics, especially in spirituality. That doesn't have a place at all. Now, people, I think we're talking about what happens when people are not doing the things in the house, which I used to face a lot. Now I'm very sure, like, for example, throwing out the garbage or doing the dishes, right? Now my thing is very clear. I don't care what anyone does. My mind, God is seated in my heart and in my house. So I will keep it clean. So I'm not expecting, no expectations from others. Because of that, I don't have any disappointments, no frustrations as well. Take life as it is. Nothing is good or bad. So that's my principle. On the work, I would say prioritize spirituality for anyone, right? In this group, we almost know it, but we have to really prioritize spirituality, because that's what will lead us to God. Work will not.
Fair
Right?
point. I think it's time
Just
now.
one thing which I want to say. Sri
Real
Adi
quick.
Shankara says, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam, Bhaja Mudamate. Jai Shri Ram.
Thank you, Kumarji. Wonderful. So we took 60 seconds extra, but I'm sure Sunilji and Ajayji are going to make up for it. They can speak a little fast. So thank you. Radhe Radhe. Have a good day, good evening, and good rest of your evening. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you, Radhe Radhe, from my side. You can stay back for the next session.
Yeah.